Now, the reason being is because you can actually filter the adverts that they play. So you can have adverts that don't show alcohol, don't have gambling, don't have dating stuff. But even if, for example, you were to tick all of those off and just have the safe adverts, even if they show an advert of biscuits, there's going to be music in the background of the advert.
Clear.
Can you make money? And if someone clicks that, then that money goes into your pocket. I've always wanted to know the answer to that.
Clear. Well, I mean, Jazakallah khairan, like you mentioned, the seriousness and the danger of a question and an answer or a fatwa, whatever you call it, is dangerous. And like we mentioned earlier, when you say something's halal or haram, you're signing a paper saying that this is Allah's ruling. So obviously, there's a great deal of study that's always needed for every question. Whether it's previous study or study in the future, you sit down and you look into it. And making a ruling on something means that you understand that thing. So that's a very good point that you mentioned about the AdSense or any other issue in Islam, is never to be hasty in answering a question, and at the same time never to be over hesitant in spreading the truth and speaking the haqq. So I'll say it like this. I would say in brief, is that a Muslim has to understand the things that Allah has made permissible for us, the non-Muslims do as well. So we have businesses, right? Muslims have hair salons, barbershops, etc. And even though the original thing is permissible along with the non-Muslims do, there's certain levels that we're just not going to get to, even though the original practice is permissible. So to be a YouTuber online and have a successful channel, many brothers do, like yourself. Many people have successful channels. They get millions of followers, thousands, millions of views, and they benefit people. But it's not like someone that's on YouTube doing foolishness or something haram and it gets, I mean, you look at your video. For your video to have 5 million views, you're like, whoa, it's viral. But then you look at this guy, he got hundreds of millions of views. And I don't think that the Muslims should always aspire to meet and match the non-Muslims what they do, because there's certain things that we're restricted to do. And this life, even though it's permissible to enjoy things and to have nice things, it isn't necessarily for us. So we got to be mindful of that. And I think sometimes YouTubers, if myself, whoever, we get carried away with that sometimes. And it ain't but so far that you can go in certain things until you fall into something disliked or haram. So with the AdSense, from one aspect, you're filtering the commercials to the best of your ability. So from one aspect, that's a good thing. And that's something which leads it to, inshallah, to perhaps being permissible. But at the same time, you said it's about biscuits, right? Or sneakers, and it has music or dancing, or even if it's in nudity, it has something which is unbefitting of a Muslim. Mm-hmm. So from one aspect, you've done your job by filtering. And from another aspect, you know that it isn't but so much filtering you can do. And a big part of things are still going to be haram, so you're still held responsible for that. And, if someone's a YouTuber or any other profession, just being an entrepreneur is a virtue for a Muslim. You can pray. You can go to Jummah. You don't have to shave your beard. You don't have to shake these people's hands. You don't have to do these haram acts. And there's always going to be a pinch or a scratch that you have to go through. Okay? People, they ask about working in banks. I've been asked that before. They ask about having hair salons and barbershops. I used to be a barber. I used to cut hair when I was younger. And to become a certified barber, you have to learn how to shave a face. You cannot get a license until you actually shave someone's face. You have to learn how to trim eyebrows. You have to know how to do ladies' hair too to be certified. So if I have an Islamic barbershop, what are the virtues of that? I can pray when I want to. There's no music being played. I don't have to deal with no haram things, credit cards, whatever the case is. There's no naked woman as the shampoo girl. We're not gambling. We're not selling guns or drugs. No pornography in my barbershop. It's a Muslim barbershop. Jummah, the shop is closed. Eid, the shop is closed. People are reading, studying. Women, sisters can come into my barbershop with their young children. But how do I get certified until I do some things which are clearly haram? So sometimes you have to take it a lesser of the two evils. How can a Muslim be a financial expert or an economist? How can the Muslims have their own la riba banks unless they know the system in and out? And you can't learn the system of riba in and out until you've actually been trained inside of the system. So living in Western countries, sometimes we have to realize that there are certain things, not all things, I said, certain things which are a necessity, and certain things which are without a doubt, it's bad, but it's things which are worse. All right, there's monsters, and then there are what? Big monsters. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you can't always avoid a small monster. So I'm not saying it's halal or haram. I'm just saying these things have to be taken into consideration. And if you say, no, you can't shave someone's face in the barber school, okay, no problem. How can I become a certified barber? I'm going to work in a barbershop and they're non-Muslims, laughing at people, looking at women, selling drugs and smoking weed in a barbershop. The sister comes in a barbershop with her young kids and she hears them talking about women and obscenities. So how can the Muslims open up their own places, let alone insurance? All that stuff you got to do to have your own business, which is clearly disliked or haram, whatever the thing may be. So the point is to establish certain things. Sometimes the Muslims must take the lesser of the two evils. So to have a successful YouTube channel that's thriving and flourishing, as we say, bubbling, people are watching it, it's viral. There are certain things that you're just going to have to go through. And if we choose to say, no, it's haram, this is haram, you can't have your own barbershop, the Muslims can't have the barbershop. We're living in a fantasy world.
Right.
We're living in a fantasy world, and in 10 and 20 years, the Muslims aren't going to have anything. And we're going to be dependent upon the non-Muslims. And when we're dependent on them, we have to do really haram things. So instead of you shaving someone's beard once to get your certification, to get a job, you're now shaving your beard every morning.
Wow.
You pick your poison.
That's powerful.
You pick your poison. You got to figure it out.
SubhanAllah.
You know, and the more independent we are, the more professional we are, the further we can get away from haram. Bi'idhnillah. Bi'idhnillah. And, you know, we just got to be mindful of this. Maybe in 10 years or 5 years, they'll make a service for the Muslims. The Muslims are so into YouTube that they force them to get rid of any commercial that is non-compliant. But it has to be a pioneer and it has to be a martyr. Don't ever forget that. It has to be a pioneer and it has to be a what? A martyr. You think Muslims got these jobs and these businesses from doing everything correct from day one? No. People had to do haram acts. What can you do?
SubhanAllah.
So, you know, that's what I think what needs to be said. And Allah surely knows best.